Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel and give this video a like.
Check out our podcast below in the description.
So, Middlecoff, there was a knock at the door 2 days ago.
Police?
Knock, knock.
The feds?
I said, is it the police? I said, no one said anything. I said, is it the feds? Nobody said anything. And I opened the door, and it was our old friend, the Kirk Cousins discussion with Kyle Shanahan. I was like, I remember you from the last time the Niners were under 500. I thought we buried you, but you're back. And it's worse because the Vikings are 1-4, and it makes it even more real. Now, look, I mentioned this the other day, unrelated to this.
I thought the ship had sailed, but then I also noticed the door opening and it coming back. And going, I don't know. We're a loss away from this really not going away.
You remember once upon a time, Kyle, and we talked about it the other day, and it came up at the time as a big story before the Super Bowl. Kyle was asked about Mahomes. He's like, yeah, we didn't look into the quarterbacks that hard because we kind of knew Kirk Cousins wasn't going to be in Washington beyond this year. That was 2017, right? He was talking about retrospect beyond 2017.
He was going to be a Niner if Jimmy Garoppolo had not been traded.
And Kyle has
that was
openly talked about it.
Yeah,
then
it was a lock.
Then they get Garoppolo, and everything's different. Yep. But it hath risen, John. It's back.
But while Jimmy's position on the team is by far, of all the quarterbacks who make a decent amount of money, the most up in the air right now of anyone, right? Of just probably any quarterback in the league that makes over $20 million. He's the number one guy that's job is by far most just like, whoa, he's in some trouble. Yeah. Literally got benched in a game. And then 3 days later was a full participant in practice. Like, come on. Let's call it what it is. He was terrible and he got benched. But it wasn't even, the weird part is, Guy, is it really wasn't even that weird. For being a little weird, it wasn't. It wasn't like if Carson Wentz got benched for Jalen Hurts, that'd be really weird, right? If there are a lot of players, Jared Goff got benched, a lot of players. I just don't think it was that weird, which is not good for Jimmy's long-term future. Cousins, though, the weird part is he's supposed to be a free agent. If I told you Cousins had not signed the contract extension that he signed this offseason, I would say I could see Jimmy getting cut and them just signing Cousins, right? I would say that feels like a lock. They signed him to a contract, and I know they're off to a slow start. He's still owed a lot of money these next couple years. They could just be thinking, why don't we just play it out? To me, the Vikings might like this guy. One, in their building. They had a lot of success with him statistically the last 2 years, right? He threw, I think, 56 touchdowns over a 2-year period. Last year was his most productive year. They won a playoff game on the road. If I told you, because I would believe you, that Kyle Shanahan would be interested in acquiring Kirk Cousins. Now, the problem is it would be a trade, and then we'd be in the discussion I couldn't give up more than a fourth.
You're almost going to say third?
Yeah, but if they gave a third, I'd be like, what the fuck are we doing? We talked about this before we hit record. The moment Kirk Cousins is acquired by Kyle Shanahan, I think Kyle, no matter how weird this year gets, would lose a lot of equity with the fan base. People don't want to watch Kirk Cousins here. I think Minnesota don't really want to watch.
People didn't want. We watched a lot of them a couple of years ago and went, good player, but I don't want to watch. You're not going to win a championship. And keep in mind, the Niners were just in the championship, right? So it's not like, they just got to get to the next level.
They beat the shit out of Cousins, Guy. Right. I went to the game. I was there. It was awful. He can't move. So it's like he has a fundamental flaw. He can't move. And clearly your offensive line, which we talked about earlier, ain't that great.
Well, but now the other thing is you look around and you go, look at all these rookie quarterbacks. They just play, and they're competitive.
Why would Minnesota trade him, though, Guy?
To me, the argument to trade him, if you're them, would be if their season keeps going like this. They're 1-4. They don't look like a 1-4 team. But if at the end of the year they're a 5-win team, maybe they could justify. Let's save the $20 million. Well, actually, it's twofold. If it keeps going like this, and they could get a second or third for him, let's save $20 million dead cap. It would still be another $20 million dead cap. They would have $20 million dead cap, but they'd save $20 million, right? Something like that.
To me, if I was Minnesota and I liked them, because I think you'd have to assume they like him, giving him. They didn't just sign him once; they signed him twice, right? Yep. So I do think they do like him, and I think they've realized, he gives us consistency. he's not their biggest issue this year. Their biggest issue has been clearly their DBs and their defense.
Yep.
Like, that's been their number one issue. It hasn't been Cousins, who, is probably...
And they didn't end up with the two-headed monster on the D-line they thought they were going to have.
Yeah, was he 5 touchdowns, 6 picks? I mean, he's not having a great year.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I just... would you just give him away for fourth? Wouldn't you just want to look at what all these teams are doing. Why wouldn't you draft a guy just with him around? What's wrong with doing that?
Well, I think you absolutely would. I think that's the move. I'm just saying.
Wouldn't you be a little surprised if they traded him?
I would be. But I'm just saying, you asked what would it take. I think the first thing it would take is them to not have a winning season.
And someone making an offer that you quote-unquote Godfather style you couldn't refuse. Because if you told me, he was tired of Jimmy and he offered them their second-round pick, which the Niners went 6-10 and it's pick 42, if you're Minnesota, maybe you listen. And I think the moment, if that were to happen, again, total hypothetical, I think the Niners would get shit on. Like, you just did what?
Well, he's a quarterback that your average fan has an opinion about, right?
I think he's well established now. Everyone kind of has an opinion. And the Niners literally just played him in the playoffs. Yeah. He's not very good.
Yeah.
Like his limitations in the playoff games were on full display, right? So, but I'm not going to discount this. Like, it's something.
What about Matt Ryan?
The dead cap there is way bigger. Remember, they just gave him $100 million 2 years ago. I would, in a weird way, this is crazy to say, I'd much rather have Kirk Cousins than Matt Ryan at this point. How about you?
I would rather have Kirk Cousins than Matt Ryan, and that is crazy to say at this point. But I've watched the Falcons enough, and he really can't move. Like, if Kirk can't move, Matt really can't move.
I do know that Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins will finish their career on other teams. But Matt Ryan will play on another team. I'm pretty confident there because they're going to be awful. They're going to hit the reset button. They'll draft a guy next year. Like, it's just time for a reset.
Yeah, they will draft a guy next year to play behind him when he's making $40 million because his dead cap is actually bigger than his.
To me, here's what's ideal. In 2 years, Matt Ryan.
I guess if they trade him, that number changes. But
Matt Ryan is the backup quarterback for the 49ers. If you tell me that, I can live with that. If you ever tell me Matt Ryan goes into week 1 as starting quarterback, you got a problem.
Yeah, backup to who would be my question.
Yeah, I mean, you draft a guy. Here's my thing with quarterbacks. There have never been more capable individuals coming out of college. And it never gets talked about. We never talk about this. And maybe it's going to happen this year for the first time. Like, why isn't Kyle being aggressive with drafting some of these guys? Like, how about just draft a third-round guy like Dak, Jimmy, Derek? Not everyone goes in the top 10. And I think, you want Herbert or Tua? Well, look around the league. How many guys? Russell Wilson, you can find guys. Kyle, 6-year contract. I'm not trying to overreact here on something that hasn't even happened yet, but you did it once upon a time with CJ. It just turns out you probably drafted the wrong guy. But there are humans every year that come out in these drafts that you can get in the second and third and fourth round.
But they haven't drafted a quarterback in the last 3 drafts, right? Now, part of that is they like Mullins enough to be the backup. They like CJ enough to also – they almost got 2 guys that they feel – so I get it, but it feels like now that's changing
That's changed.
A little bit. Yeah, I'm with you. It has changed. And I think what you'd like to see is somebody that has a different skill set than CJ Beathard or Nick, right? Somebody that's more athletic.
Would you agree with this? As of October 15th, if we wanted to start talking 49er draft, quarterbacks on the list, right?
Yeah.
They will be in the quarterback. Whether they draft one or not, I don't know, but they will be in the quarterback. They should be working guys out.
If you told me, if you had that hypothetical and said, okay, are we ruling out a first-round quarterback? I would say no. We have to wait and see how this year goes.
I'd agree.
Because if it goes very badly and that now, Kyle's a good coach. We think they still got a chance to fight here. But we also have to be realistic about the possibility that can go really badly given all the injuries and how difficult their schedule's about to be. Then, yeah, you would have to think that quarterback in the first round would be something to think about.
I would like him just to draft a quarterback that can move around a little bit and then work your fucking magic. You did it with Cousins, and he was a bad athlete. Do it with Mac Jones or whatever player in the second or third round. To me, I don't even think you need to do a first round. You have Kyle Shanahan. It's part of having Kyle Shanahan. You should be able to find a guy in the second or third round that then you can mold into a high-end player. That, to me, should be your greatest asset in the franchise, in theory, is your head coach.
Yeah, well, they're going to take Davis Mills.
I don't even know who that is.
Actually, I don't know. He might be a first rounder. DJ loves him.
What?
He's Stanford's quarterback, but he's been hurt a lot. But he's huge.
I got
and athletic.
I got to see him play before.
November 7th, he's playing UW, I think. Jimmy likes defense, John. Flying around, strong at the DB position.
Well, at least, but see that they should be all over that kid then.
Yeah.
Go watch him.
I mean,
Go
they
scout
will
him.
be. It's John Stanford.
That's true.